Good evening. This is Attorney Vincent Davis. These are my office hours, and I'm on with my guest, no, my permanent host, co-host, Miss G. Miss G? How are you?
I'm good. What did you say, guest, and then my permanent host, Miss G? You got mixed up a little bit here. It's okay.
Just a little.
How was your day today in court today? I
Oh,
know
it
you were
was.
up north.
Yeah, I had to fly up north, do a hearing, fly back. So we're
And
getting a
here you
little.
are doing a show.
Yeah, we're getting a little late start on the show.
That's right. As usual, but it's okay because you're an attorney and your schedule is very tight.
So, what's going on this evening?
Well, I wanted to do the show today dedicated to a couple of people. As we discussed earlier, there is a lot of clients, I mean, a lot of parents who are calling, um, telling me about GBI. Um, and you mentioned today that GBI is a little dangerous when it comes to CPS investigation. Um, that means per basically that the children will not return to the parent.
Well, we're
If
getting
that's
ahead
what
of
my
ourselves. Getting ahead of us. If
okay.
somebody mentions GBI to you, that is a term used in criminal law, great bodily injury.
Hmm.
It's not the normal nomenclature for a CPS case. But if somebody says GBI to you, likely they have a CPS case and a criminal case. And it means just exactly what it says, that allegedly the parent has caused great bodily injury to a minor. And it's something very serious because you want to make sure that you don't talk to a social worker or a detective unless you have an attorney present. Now, we probably published the most important video I've ever done today on YouTube and the other social media platforms. And it's titled The Most Important Video I've Ever Done. And it kind of relates to this subject. It has to do with social workers and police officers, how they get you to um, talk without your lawyer and make incriminating statements. So, the first thing that you need to do if you have a GBI case is, and let me say this nicely, shut your mouth completely. Social workers can be used as witnesses against you in a criminal law case. So don't let a social worker manipulate you into talking about the case because there may be good defenses that you have that you can just talk away and throw them out the window if you talk to a social worker or a police officer. I've noticed it, and I think you've noticed it too, Georgette. The types of cases that we find, they kind of, I thought they were always random, whatever was brought up or, sent to you as a social worker. But over the years, I've noticed patterns within the prosecution of CPS cases. Sometimes it's drug, a lot of times it's domestic violence, occasionally it's sex abuse. But I've noticed a lot of counties focusing on injuries to children, usually reported by the hospital. And, it's a little thing, social workers being trained more to look at these cases, and doctors being trained more to allegedly recognize the social worker or this great bodily injury trend. So that's why I think we're seeing more and more of them when people call us with these great bodily injuries. Can't hear you because you're muted.
Um, but the thing is, the the parents that I was speaking with the whole week are not reported by the social workers. They're actually reported by anonymous callers. And
Mm.
I'll give you one example. The one I spoke with today is an 8-year-old, and there's nothing wrong with the child, but it was reported by an anonymous person, and there was absolutely no due process. The parents were arrested, went to jail, bailed out, or they were let go. Uh, but CPS took that and ran with it. They changed their story several times. So, and then another case with a 2-month old, right? Um, the baby was born natural birth, and all of a sudden the hospital is claiming there's damage in the baby. How are you going to claim that when the mother gave birth and you delivered the baby, but there was nothing wrong with the baby according to the hospital, but all of a sudden as soon as they went home there's something wrong with the baby? They discharged the parents. So if there was something wrong with the baby, what can the parents do in the hospital when the baby, you know, it doesn't make sense. I mean, there's a lot of information that I'm getting, and it all makes sense to me, but it doesn't add up to what social workers are like. They're eager to remove children, especially babies.
So, one
Uh,
of the things that you have to do as a parent is preserve every shred of evidence now, the medical records, the charts, the pictures, the x rays, all of that. You have to start preserving that now. Because what happens a lot of times is people call me and they hire me, and we go to the first hearing,
right,
and the parents don't have any records, any evidence whatsoever.
right,
And then we have to spend our time, trying to get those medical records. And sometimes the social workers don't make that easy, or the hospitals don't make it easy.
right.
So get those medical records now before you come to court.
But
And
wait
the
a
other,
minute.
go ahead.
Sorry. What if the hospital refuses to release the medical records to the parents?
Um, Before the case is filed,
Uh huh.
it's not legal for the hospital to not turn over records requested by the parents. So if you ever have a problem, you should probably call your attorney or call me, and we can make a phone call to the hospital
Yep,
to remedy that situation.
I agree. Um,
The next thing, well, there's other things that you want to do. You want to hire a lawyer, you want to hire a criminal defense attorney, you want to hire a CPS defense attorney. It's beneficial if that person is the same person. And you want to line up a medical expert right away to start looking at your evidence. Okay? There are there was a case in Sacramento County that I did where a child was injured,
mm-hmm,
kind of a great bodily injury
mm-hmm,
thing. And we hired a medical expert that opined and proved that the injury occurred in the hospital while the child was in the hospital in intensive care, not while the child was released to the parents.
mm-hmm,
Now, a medical expert can look at x rays and give an approximate date of the injury.
mm-hmm.
And in this particular case, our medical expert said, hey, it couldn't have happened when the child was in their care because of the injury. I can tell that the injury took place between these two dates.
Right.
Between those two dates, the child was in the hospital in intensive care. And then,
Mhm.
then our expert went even further and opined how that injury happened. And he he opined that the child was given, it was noted in the records that the child was given CPR. But giving CPR to a child is much different than giving CPR to an adult. And he gave us the opinion that this injury was the result of somebody giving CPR to an adult, or as if the patient were an adult instead of, a young child.
Right.
In that particular case, the judge believed our witness over the county's witness because they had a witness who was from the hospital,
Mhm.
who was there. And I kind of intimated that on cross examination, the hospital administrator or the doctor was testifying to protect her hospital from a medical malpractice lawsuit.
That point.
Okay.
That part. Yeah.
It wasn't as if the county had gone out and hired someone independent. They used the expert from their own hospital who happened to be one of the administrators of the hospital.
Mhm.
So luckily, the judge found our expert more credible. Now,
Right.
but this is something that you should do at the very beginning of the case. You should get a medical expert lined up or get your attorney working with a medical expert right away. Okay?
Okay. Now, when it comes to, I explained to someone today that you can be innocent, you can be free in criminal court. That doesn't mean you're free from CPS.
That's correct.
Can you explain to them, because
Sure.
they're watching this video and I want them to understand?
Sure. The difference is burdens of proof. Okay? In California, as in every state, there are three burdens of proof. The lowest being preponderance of evidence. The next lowest is clear and convincing evidence. And for a criminal case, you must prove something beyond a reasonable doubt.
Mhm.
Okay? So you can win a criminal case because the prosecutor didn't have beyond a reasonable doubt evidence to convict you.
Right.
But you can drop down to the CPS court, and because they use a lower standard of evidence, you could lose CPS case, win the criminal case, but you could still lose your kids because in a CPS case, it's a lower standard of proof. Okay. Let me give you an example. You remember O.J. Simpson?
Yes.
Okay, O.J. Simpson was found not guilty in a criminal court.
Right.
They went across the street to the civil court, and Nicole Simpson's family sued O.J. for wrongful death. They won $40 million. So people say, well, how could he be innocent in the criminal case but lose the civil case? And it's because of the burdens of evidence. The prosecutor didn't have enough evidence to prove him beyond a reasonable doubt. But in the civil court, all they needed was a preponderance of evidence. And I like to give numbers to these sometimes, makes it more understandable.
Mhm.
Beyond a reasonable doubt means that the prosecutor has to prove more than 95% that something is true to send a person to jail. In civil court, it's a preponderance of evidence, which is just more than 50%. So you see the big difference, 95 versus 50.
50.
Well, there's a lot of play in there. There's a second civil burden of proof, which is used in juvenile courts, primarily at the disposition hearing, and that's the standard of clear and convincing evidence, which is about 75%.
Okay.
So you see how you can win in criminal court, but lose in civil court. Now, here's something else that I've read in appellate cases, and I actually had this many, many years ago. You can win in CPS court and lose in criminal court. Okay? That's totally illogical, but if that is the law.
But not doesn't happen all the time.
No, no,
It's
doesn't
very
happen.
rare.
No, doesn't happen all the time.
Right. But oftentimes I've seen people think that if they win the criminal case, they're going to get their kids back. And I keep telling them it's not the same.
Yeah,
And
it's not
this,
true.
right.
It's
And
not
this, right. And this GBI that all of a sudden I keep hearing about, that's kind of mixed in with the CPS, where all of a sudden the parent went from being parent of the year to scumbags of the earth. It doesn't make sense. You can't
here's
just be an abusive parent, right? They can't claim abuse, but there's no harm on the 8-year old, for example. The 8-year old has no bruises, no pain, no whatsoever, but all they need CPS is one false allegation, I mean one false call against you. And anybody can make that call. And all of a sudden, CPS is going to create their own narrative. They're going to add more and more to the reports that you didn't say, and they're going to try to divide the family. I was speaking to a couple of parents today, and they told me that everything I shared with them was accurate. I told them before they even opened their mouth, I said, they're going to come after your family. They're going to say, you said, she said. They're going to separate you from your mom and dad. They're going to do this. And then he said to me, the father said, Miss G, you're absolutely correct. That's what's happening right now. Literally what's happening right now. CPS would lie to the grandparents to divide them away from the parents. And I am trying to explain to everyone today to be very cautious when you speak to CPS, because you shouldn't even speak with them without an attorney present. Please understand that. Attorney must be present. A CPS defense attorney, not just if a CPS defense attorney says, hey, Jacob, you can speak to the social workers without me. You don't need me there. Just be honest, right? And Jacob thinks, well, honesty is a great thing. I'm not saying you should lie either. All I'm saying that anything you say will be held against you. And you can go back and undo it. Am I right, Davis?
It's very difficult to undo something.
Very
If not,
difficult, a lot of
if
work.
not, if not impossible. There's something I wanted to mention a lot, and I get this from a lot of people, and it's completely false.
Yeah.
They believe that if their criminal case is won or dropped, that they automatically win the CPS case.
Not true.
And that's not true. Now, it seems like common sense would tell you it would be true, but of course, the law is not common sense.
Hmm.
And the reason why you win a criminal case or it gets dismissed is the prosecutor can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt, can't prove that 95%. Well, the CPS prosecutor only has to prove preponderance of evidence, which is the 50%,
True.
right?
But I
And
want to, oh,
and in CPS court they get to use stuff like hearsay, which would
yes,
not which would not be used in a criminal case.
correct.
So it's much easier to prove the CPS case. And just because the criminal case is dropped or won does not mean you get your kids back.
Correct. There's one thing I want to mention to Betty. A few things actually. Betty said you can request the medical records anytime you want. It's not true if the hospitals are trying to hide something. So keep that in mind. Say if something happened to the child or the baby when the baby was in the hospital, they're trying to hide, you know, what happened, and they want to blame the parents, right? Um, Betty also said, what happens if both parents are off guardianship without a court order and it was requested by CPS worker for them to do? I would like you to answer that for Betty if you don't mind, Vincent, because I got three people asking the same questions today.
State it again. I'm writing it down.
What happens if both parents are off guardianship without court order?
Or off guardianship. That doesn't make sense.
Um, I guess she meant to say lose their parental rights, maybe?
Betty, reword that question because I don't understand it. Let her reword it and we'll put it back up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, the foster parents also lie, she said, which is true. The foster parents can work with CPS, absolutely. But also we get a lot of calls from foster parents that when CPS turns against them. Um, I got one yesterday, actually, last night around 8:30 when she got off work, and she said she was a foster parent, and CPS went against her and her husband, and they're treating them really bad. They're accusing them of things they didn't do. And the foster mom said to me that payback is true. She said the F word, but I didn't want to say it. But she said payback is a F word and a B word. So, um, but she understands now what parents go through. She also found out that a lot of parents that CPS will tell her the parents are on drugs or in jail or in prison. That she said one of the parents was actually a registered nurse at Cedar Sinai, and she said that is they told her that she was in prison and she's all kinds of crimes against that woman. But now the foster parent is finding out that CPS do lie to make the foster parents hate the parents. Really, that's the only thing I can think of. I don't know how else to say it. Betty also said, what happens if both parents sign off guardianship to a family member without a court order and it was requested by a CPS worker for them to do?
It's not automatically recognized, especially if it's not a court order. As a matter of fact, let me even be a little bit more clear. You can't have a guardianship without a court order. So if you don't have a court order, you don't have it. You don't have guardianship.
Maybe she's talking about signing
Let's not maybe.
a notary. A
Let's have
notary,
notary is no good.
right? That is true. Notary is absolutely no good. It doesn't do you guys good, but you guys think that it works. It doesn't work at all. I don't even know why people think notary works. Um, Betty said, okay, yeah, we went there. Oh, Betty, it was a gift, honey. A set of seven different colors. My late sister, the one that died recently, she gave me that. So yeah. So now we answered the questions. Now, what is your advice um, to parents who their parents don't believe they're gonna lose their kids?
Maybe have them take a look at some videos on my site.
I did.
You know, one of the things why grandparents don't believe that is because that's what the social worker led them to believe. You know, um, in the past, you and I have talked about psyops, psychological warfare,
Yep.
and I've been doing some studying on it, and I just did, and it's called The Most Important Video I've Ever Done. And it's about psyops, and it's about psychological manipulation that investigators and social workers use. So if I talk to you, I'm a trusted government agent, a social worker, and I tell the grandparents ABC, the grandparents are going to believe in their government and their government officials, and they're going to believe the social worker. because that's the agenda the social worker is selling. Okay? So that's probably why the grandparents have certain ideas. And, unfortunately, those ideas are going to become set in stone. And there's not going to be an easy way to change those ideas
Right.
because grandparents, being older, they trust their government. They believe
Yeah.
in their government. They believe that government officials don't lie. But all you got to do is turn on the news every day. And do you ever see government officials not telling the truth? Of course you do, on both sides of the aisle.
I have no
So
comments on that. I understand where you're coming from, but I don't want to. Yeah, we disagree. We have to disagree on that part. Anyways, Betty said, would I have to file the guardianship with the courts?
if you want a guardianship, yes.
But if
But
CPS took the kids,
yeah, now that becomes a very tricky situation, Betty.
right?
If a CPS case is open, it's going to be kind of a legal quagmire, and
Hmm.
you're going to have to be careful on what you do. You probably should at least hire a lawyer to consult with or to coach you on how to do it if you don't want to hire a lawyer to do it for you.
Not just any lawyer. You have to be specific, Vincent. When you say that, she has to hire a CPS defense attorney that understands, also that has knowledge of probate. You can't just, you know,
Right.
you
You're
can't
right.
just hire anyone.
Right,
This
right.
is
I
because they
agree.
screw up everything, and then they come to us saying, "Please help me." You
You
know,
know, one of the things, Betty, that I'll tell you is you have to be very careful because sometimes you're only going to have one shot at this. And if you do it the wrong way, you're just going to be out of luck.
right?
Or you're going to take your one shot, you're going to do it the wrong way, and then you're going to call me. And then you're going to be disappointed that I'm going to charge you so much because now I have to go back and fix what you screwed up as
Hmm.
well as get what you wanted originally.
Right, and
But
it's not even her
a lot of
fault.
people
It's the
don't understand
attorney.
that. A
Right.
lot of people don't understand that. They try to do it themselves, they screw it up, and then they come to me and say, "Oh, go fix it, Mr. Davis. Charge me the same thing you originally were going to charge me."
Mm-mm.
Can't do that. It's going to be a lot more work, you know?
I will never forget with one of the people that we spoke with a couple of years ago when he hired another attorney, and that attorney filed a 388 on the trial date. Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
I do. Well,
And,
the reason why I
and
remember it
he
because
lost
I
his
think,
parental rights. I still think about that. That's why I tell people, don't just think you're hiring an attorney that is competent just because that attorney promised you the moon and the stars. You're gonna have to understand something. It takes a specific type of strategy to win cases. Not everybody is willing to understand these different strategies because, I don't know. God bless these attorneys. I don't know what else to say. Um, did you read that, PE Payton? Payton?
yeah.
What is it?
What if CPS and GAL means guardian ad litem, along with
Mhm.
the other, the father coached the child to lie on their family and now charges are dismissed? Can caseworker and GAL be held accountable along with the father? The answer to that question is absolutely yes. Absolutely.
But again,
Don't try to do it yourself.
yes. And I'm going to say this again. I know I said this before. Please, I'm begging you, do not use AI to help you or answer your questions. We have a mother and a grandmother called me right before the show, said that they need to speak with me after the show. And I said, "What is the emergency?" They said that they asked questions with AI, and then today was their TPR hearing, the mother's termination of parental rights hearing. Basically, she lost her rights. And she said that AI misled them. I mean, I'm going to call them after the show. But of course, AI misled you. It doesn't,
First of all, people think they know how to use AI. AI is much more complicated or sophisticated than what most people know how to use. First of all, AI is not 100% right with respect to the law.
mm,
Secondly, you have to know how to use AI, how to prompt it, how to set up the situation, ask the question, that type of thing. A lot of people don't know how to do that and have received no training.
right,
But, you can just get on AI, type in anything, it'll give you an answer, but it's usually, only 40, 50% accurate. But you don't know any different, and you think it's 100% accurate.
right. And AI will not give you the answer that the grandparents have standing from the beginning of the case. So if AI tells you that the grandparents have standing from the beginning of the case, then AI was made by a very dumb attorney. I don't know how else to say it without being mean about it. Um, Davis, do you understand what I just said?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So don't think AI is really that intelligent. AI is good in certain situations, but not to diagnose your condition or to win a CPS case for you. Okay. Betty said that you wanted to charge her 550,000. Where's your case, Betty? In Alaska?
I don't think I've ever quoted anyone
Five hundred and
550.
fifty thousand dollars. Okay. So, Betty, I don't know where you got that, but as if your case in Alaska and you have like two cases, maybe I understand. Or maybe the North Pole, Nebraska. Okay. Her case is in Nebraska. So, is it one case or two cases, Betty? I don't know where she got 550,000. How many kids do you have? For God's sakes, you have 20 kids, 21 kids, one case. Okay, so I know you didn't say 550,000.
Betty, if you want an accurate quote, call the telephone number in the right hand corner
Just ask for me, Betty. We'll talk.
and speak to Miss G.
We'll talk. It's definitely not 550,000. And also, guys, when you speak to social media um, parents, be careful who you speak with because oftentimes they're social workers undercover. And I can't express this enough to you. They're social workers undercover, pretending they're victims of CPS, pretending they're fighting the system. You call them, you communicate with them, you think you're speaking to a victim, but what you're doing, you're sharing case information with an actual social worker that will go report what you're sharing with them. So if you have a court hearing and the judge says, stop, you're sharing personal information on social media, you better believe it's the person you spoke with because social workers are demonic clever. Okay, so don't underestimate them. Don't think you can outwin them. Don't think you're smarter than them because they're trained. How can I say it in a nice way without cussing? Social workers are white collar trained criminals, white collar criminals. There you go, white collar criminals. That's what they do. They literally lie to you for a living. And you guys have to understand. I shared Nancy Schaefer's video with you guys. She was a senator for Georgia. She actually exposed them when she was in office. So you guys need, you must understand you're not dealing with just a normal person. You're going to have so many different social workers, trust me. Am I right, Davis? How many social workers do people tell you they had? I had five social workers. The first one was nice. The second one was, witch from hell. The third one was like, you know, scumbag of the earth. I mean, you get different types of social workers, and don't think the first one, the nice one that you believe, is not really a nice one. They play this game, good cop, bad cop. Okay. Um. Oh boy, it's for her niece. She said she's in the process of being adopted by the foster mom. She said, my brother case had six caseworkers. Yeah, so you understand, Betty. So she's about to be adopted by uh, her niece is about to be in the process of being adopted by the foster mother. And she's in Nebraska. What do you say?
About what? Was that a question?
That's kind of pushing it very close to it's already at the end, right, Davis? I mean, that's this is the part that I hate it. But Betty's in Montana. The case is in Nebraska. That's tough, Betty. Especially when she pretty much lost her rights.
When did she lose her rights?
Um, her her brother, it's her brother, so she's the aunt. She said that her niece is in the process of being adopted in Nebraska. So it's Betty's brother's case. And then Betty said that she has an ICPC. And a lot of people say that too, Vincent. They have an ICPC, but they don't get the child. It's kind of like witch hunt.
Well, here's the reason why. Let me tell you.
Uh huh.
Because there's a disconnect in the laws that nobody tells you about. Let me give
Right.
you an example. Give you an example. Mother in Nebraska says, I have my Aunt Betty in Montana who can take the kid. Okay? An ICPC is done and Betty is approved by Montana to take the kid. What is Betty missing? Betty's missing the social worker and or judge in Nebraska approving the placement. Getting ICPC approval does not guarantee you the child. And this is one of those things where I tell people in Montana, if you want a kid from Nebraska, do your ICPC, but get a lawyer in in Nebraska that can go to the Nebraska judge and get a court order to have the child placed with you in Montana since you have an ICPC approval. Just having an ICPC approval does not mean you're going to get the child. Okay? So if you just thought, oh, I'm going to get an ICPC approval and I'm going to get the child, it could work that way, but it also could not work that way. So people ask me, do I need a lawyer? And I say, well, how sure do you want to be about getting this child? Do you want to take chances? Apparently, like Betty did, or Betty didn't even know what she was supposed to do. So she's not even ever going to get this child
Right.
unless she goes to court and tries to, you know, do a Hail Mary pass.
Right. But Betty said it was approved by the court and the social workers.
What social worker?
Approved by the judge and the social worker. What social workers approve what? It's the judge, right?
Well, it's the judge and the social worker has to have some type of administrative appeal. I can tell you, Betty, that that's not accurate.
Yeah, it's not.
Somebody lied to you,
Yeah.
and you think that you have approval. But if you had approval, you'd have the child.
This is
Okay?
so sad. This is so sad.
There are many ways to steal a child. Many ways.
I'm so sick of them.
And they're all unquote, quote unquote, legal.
Social workers are scums. Scums, really scums. The social worker bought bought my plane ticket to come down there to
Okay,
pick
go
her
come down to Nebraska to pick up the child. You had a plane ticket in your hand, Betty Joe, and you went to Nebraska?
up.
I'll bet you $1 she didn't have a plane ticket in her hand.
Nope.
Somebody told her she's got a plane ticket.
Social workers would never do that. I hate to tell you this, Betty. Oh, yeah.
Oh, see, here's what happened. The
No,
mo-
she said no. You're right. She said no. She didn't have the ticket in her hand.
right.
Exactly.
She was just played. They
They
told her.
everyone.
And then the social worker made this excuse.
Mm-hmm.
The mother made allegations against me to CPS.
Mm-hmm.
Betty, did you actually talk to the mother to confirm that?
I told you.
That
And
another dollar, that no, she didn't. See, there's so many ways to steal a child. And you know why this is happening to Betty? Because she didn't have an attorney in Nebraska representing her that would dot all the I's and cross all the T's.
not just an attorney, a CPS defense attorney, for God's sakes. She said, no, I have the email from the mother.
Okay.
I
And
don't.
and did the mother write that freely, or did the social worker help her write that?
Exactly. If you don't do this, you're not going to get your kids back. That's what they do. That's what social workers do. If you don't admit the guilt, you're not going to get your kids back. If you don't do this, if you don't sign, if you don't do this, you don't comply, you're not going to get your kids back. Well, guess what? From day one, your kids are not going to be back. They already know where they're going to place the children. They already know which home is going to adopt these kids. You guys need to wake up. I'm being honest.
Let me back up and let's go to the GBI. Do you have any other questions regarding that?
Um, I'm just concerned about the grandparents because I have three parents um today, and they're all from different states. They said that the grandparents don't believe that they're gonna lose their children.
Okay. Look,
So I'm
look,
trying
there's
to
nothing you can
understand.
do. There's nothing you can do to make somebody believe something
No, I
if
know that, but we can
they've been told
educate,
otherwise.
right, but we can educate them, and that's why I need you to
Only
do
if they want to be
that
educated.
vessel.
Only if they want to be educated.
Right. So this video is for educational purposes. So please educate the relatives, right? CPS will never leave the children with you. Even if they tell you the moon and the stars are going to be handed to you, it's not true. So you wait until the TPR, which is termination of parental rights. Once your son or daughter loses their rights, you grandparents have no rights.
That's true.
And social workers will, I mean, the court appointed attorneys will always say, you're not part of the case. Or the social workers will say to the grandparents, you're not part of the case. Well, guess what? You can be part of the case. It's not true what they're telling you. You're the grandparents. You have your right to have your grandchildren placed with you. If you don't act immediately, and believe everything the social worker tells you to do. Or if the social worker tells you that your son or daughter are not complying, they're lying. 100% lying.
Have you ever heard of something called disinformation?
Yes, absolutely.
That's what social workers use.
Yes.
Disinformation.
Yes.
I urge everyone to go to my YouTube channel and watch the video titled "The Most Important Video I've Ever Made."
Did you just texted that to us today in a group chat?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna share it with everybody right now.
So please watch that and you
I'm
will
gonna share it.
see
I'm
how
sharing.
much psychological warfare is played.
Absolutely. I'm sharing right now, guys.
Ms. G, do you have any other questions for me on GBI and injury claims in CPS investigations?
You always say don't talk to the social workers without a CPS defense attorney, correct?
Correct.
If you go to your first hearing, and you request from the judge that you want to hire your own attorney, your court appointed attorney that day is going to discourage you, or the judge will only give you what, 24 hours, Vincent? Sometimes 24 hours.
It depends on each judge.
Right.
The detention hearing can only be continued 24 hours.
24 hours. Okay.
But you
Um,
can hire your attorney, the sooner the better, but at any time during the case.
okay. That's right. Um, Betty said that her information for the plane ticket was pretty much she wanted the information for the plane ticket. Um, there is no plane ticket, Betty. She just witch hunt. Right, Davis? I mean, come on now.
And here's the sad thing about the whole thing, Georgette. Betty Joe, to this day, doesn't realize what happened to her.
Nope. No. And neither do the kids.
Yeah.
That's the sad part. But here is the link for Davis's video that you guys should all watch. Honestly, it's very informative. I'm guilty. I haven't watched it yet because I was busy on the phones today. But I will. I will
Okay.
definitely watch it after the show. Thank you, Attorney Davis. Hopefully, we can do. I don't know if you're busy tomorrow or not. Um, if you're
Okay.
gonna do the show around the same time or
So
earlier, I'm not sure.
absolutely. We'll have another
Maybe
show.
earlier.
Yeah.
Let's
Hey,
do the show earlier.
hey, Grace, give us an outro, please.
A vivid picture is encrypted in your mind as the critics get in line like they're witnessing a crime. But then you notice there's a shiver in your spine from the feelings of discontentment and bitterness combined. Heartbroken when you listen to the judges, another kid's innocence corrupted. And if you go against then it's destructive. Consider this predicament the toughest, but we believe in a system fit for justice. Child Protective Services only pretends to save it. The one solution for this is worthy of instant praises. 30 years of experience with relentless cases. Allow me to introduce them. This is Vincent Davis defending you when they don't think a mother fits the role. Is it juvenile dependency or government control? Observe the pain in their eyes. It's time for us to realize we are the last one.